Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch AM from Graham. Ahead today, former President Donald Trump taking on the culture wars, President Joe Biden, and more. In an exclusive interview with CBN News, including the big question, will he run again? Possible violence at the Supreme Court, a fence going up to protect the High Court's building. And in Boston, the Satanic Temple wants to fly its flag outside City Hall. Plus, critics are blasting the government's new Disinformation Board. Although it's supposed to be on the lookout for misinformation, many warn it could be a tool for government censorship.
What they're trying to protect you from here is obviously just things that they disagree with. I think it's taking us down a very dark road, and the last thing we need is a government division that is specializing in censorship.
We'll take a look at this agency and why so many people are already opposing it. And today is the annual National Day of Prayer, with tens of thousands coming together across the country and beyond our borders to pray.
It will be 90 minutes of us joining, again, hearts and voices, not watching, praying with. We want you to be praying with us.
We'll hear how people will gather today to pray for America. All those stories and more are ahead today on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We begin with CBN's exclusive interview with former President Donald Trump taking on President Biden on the culture wars as well over gender. President Trump also talked about Biden's views on evangelicals, Israel, and more, along with his opinion on that controversial leak from the U.S. Supreme Court on its possible decision on abortion. And they talked about the big question, will he run again? Here's that interview with CBN Chief Political Analyst David Brody.
How are you? Nice to see you. Good to see you, David.
When our CBN News crew met a relaxed Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, there was plenty to talk about.
Mr. President, great to see you again, sir.
Thank you.
Specifically, the leaked Supreme Court draft opinion that could overturn Roe v. Wade.
The Supreme Court, this big deal, Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court now authenticating that draft opinion by Sam Alito, in essence overturning Roe v. Wade. Were you surprised to see this?
Well, we don't know exactly if that's true because it was certainly something that they're working on. It would imagine, I don't think anyone made it up. And they don't know who leaked it. I will say the leak was a terrible thing. You're just not used to that for the Supreme Court. It was very shocking, I think. I think it was a very bad thing for the court.
Well, Chuck Schumer says it's all your fault, of course, if Roe v. Wade gets overturned. Obviously, he's talking about those 3 pro-life Supreme Court justices.
Yeah.
Impact your thoughts?
Well, a lot of people are very happy about that.
Of
so
course.
some people maybe say it's my fault, and some people say, thank you very much.
From abortion to the transgender movement's rise to Disney's embracing gay rights, our culture is in the midst of a serious fight.
This transgender movement is out of control. Joe Biden thinks there's at least 3 genders. I would think more. What do you make of it specifically? And I am curious as it relates to whether or not you see this transgender movement, not transgender people, but the movement is evil, unbiblical. A lot of people say this is not the way it should be.
It's not the way it should be, that's for sure. It is a terrible thing. I mean, especially where you're taking children that don't even have this period to form. And you know, in many cases, I hear 60% of the cases, later life, they're saying, why did they do this to me? 60%. No, I think it's a terrible thing. I think what's happened with Disney and what Disney's doing, Walt Disney is looking down.
What's he thinking?
He's not happy, okay? Walt Disney said, whatever happened to my beautiful Magic Kingdom?
Whatever is happening, there are charges that those who support discussing the LGBT lifestyle with little kids are in what they call the grooming business. Trump says he gets it.
What's your view on the grooming comments that a lot of conservatives think this is grooming by the left?
Yeah, I'm opposed to it, obviously. I'm opposed to many of the things that we talk about. I can think of nothing actually that I'd be for. This is a different world. It's a new world. And I think it's actually going to be shut out. You know how it's going to get shut out? Common sense. It's common sense. But I think it's going, and I think religion will help shut it out. You know, nobody has done more for Christianity. Nobody has done more for religion of all type than me. And they're really doing things now to, and I've always said it, they are against organized religion. They're against Christianity.
And now free speech faces another potential challenge, courtesy of the Biden administration's Disinformation Governance Board, aimed at making sure Americans have the truth on a variety of topics. It's led to comparisons of George Orwell's Ministry of Truth in the book 1984.
I think that it's not even believable that we're talking about this subject, if you want to know the truth. Who would have believed that we're talking about somebody that's going to censure people over a long period of time, and very strong? Now they're saying, oh, no, it's just a recommendation. That's where it all began. I guess that's what they used to say in Russia. That's what they said in the Soviet Union, right? We're just going to do it a little bit. No, we can't do that. We can't do that. That's a horrible thing.
Imagine you, in your administration, introducing some sort of Ministry of Truth, what the media would have done with
Well,
that.
I have a Ministry of Truth. It's called Truth. It's called Truth Social.
The truth about the upcoming midterm elections is that polls show the GOP poised for victory. Trump, as you might imagine, sees himself leading the way. He saw fruit Tuesday night when J.D. Vance, his endorsed Senate candidate, won Ohio's GOP primary.
You know the media is going to be looking at your one-loss record. You've endorsed a lot of candidates. What's your sense here in terms of how this will play out? And how much stock do you put in this win-loss record of yours?
So my record is unparalleled. My endorsements, it's totally unparalleled. Nobody's ever had a record like this. I'm almost unblemished.
I remember Joe Biden saying months ago at this press conference he had that he goes, he couldn't believe all these Republicans still afraid of Trump. It's like, oh, they were all afraid of Trump. Should Republicans be afraid of you, the ones that are not in line with you and your views?
Well, if they want to win politically, probably, because if I endorse them, they win, and if I don't endorse them, they don't win. I mean, that's almost 100% of the case.
As poll after poll shows Trump as the likely GOP leader going forward, it looks like he'll be moving on without his vice president, Mike Pence.
How is that relationship today with Mike Pence?
Honestly, I haven't spoken to Mike in a long time.
What's a long time, would you say, roughly? I mean, I don't want people to start saying what a long time is.
A long time is 4 or 5 months. I haven't spoken to him in a long time. And he's a nice man. He disappointed me on one thing because I think he should have sent the votes back to the legislatures.
If he gets into the race in 2024, he's thinking about it. I'm assuming you're going to say, I don't want to put words in your mouth. No shot here if he gets in the race in 2024?
I don't want to say. Look, if Mike got in, it would be, I think it would be a hard one for him. I think it would be a hard one. I understand where the base is. I love the base. The base loves me. I think it would be hard, but Mike was a good guy. I thought he was a very good vice president. He was my friend.
But that was then. As 2024 rounds the corner, Trump says he'll decide about running again after the midterms. Until then, he's taking every opportunity to use the Biden administration's troubles to tell the country he was right all along.
I said these people are against evangelicals. I said they're against Israel. I said they're against organized religion, frankly, but they're against all of the things that you and I and most of your viewers stand for. And when I said that during debates and elsewhere, people sort of weren't sure. I turned out to be right. And I've had many people say, as good as I think we were, they said, you were the best at it, you were the best, and they want me back. Everything I said was right, by the way. And I'm not just talking about energy and the border, I'm talking about religion.
And from all appearances, Donald Trump is ready for an encore. David Brody, CBN News at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida.
Coming up, high interest rates are on the way on everything from mortgages to credit cards as the Federal Reserve tries to fight inflation. We've got that story and the other headlines from the day when we come back. And welcome back to CBN Newswatch. Get ready for higher interest rates on everything from mortgages to car loans and other kinds of loans, including rates on credit cards. The Federal Reserve is raising rates half a point, the biggest increase since 2000, to try to slow the economy and to stop the highest inflation in more than 40 years.
Inflation is much too high, and we understand the hardship it is causing, and we're moving expeditiously to bring it back down.
The Fed is expected to keep raising rates in the months ahead, but many economists worry higher rates could lead to a recession. A fence has gone up around the United States Supreme Court. Workers started putting up the fence Wednesday night. Video from WJLA TV and other Washington stations showed the fence being constructed, but no official statement was available. The fence going up after protests earlier this week after the leak indicating the court is prepared to overturn Roe v. Wade, which legalized abortion across the country. And Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito, who wrote that leaked opinion, has canceled an appearance at a judicial conference, that is according to Reuters. The Satanic Temple is requesting to fly a flag over Boston City Hall after the Supreme Court ruled this week the city was wrong to prevent a conservative activist from flying a Christian flag outside the building. The group wants to raise a flag to mark Satanic Appreciation Week, that is July 23rd to the 29th. The organization has not decided which of its official flags it will ask the city to fly. But one likely option echoes the American flag with black and white stripes and an emblem of a pentagram and a goat skull where the 50 stars would be. Still ahead, a new government agency that's supposed to monitor disinformation, but critics say it could lead to government censorship. We're going to have that story for you when we come back. Stay with us. Is Homeland Security's new Disinformation Board an Orwellian outrage or much needed oversight that's long overdue? On this week's episode of The Global Lane, Tony Lyons, the president of Skyhorse Publishing, fears what it may mean for America in the days ahead.
I think it's taking us down a very dark road. You know, this has been a period of increasing censorship, and the last thing we need is a government division that is specializing in censorship. So generally, you know, anytime there's going to be really comprehensive censorship, people are going to tell you that they're trying to protect you from something. That's a very common narrative. But what they're trying to protect you from here is obviously just things that they disagree with.
Well, I was going to ask, what do you think? I mean, who decides what is disinformation, what isn't, what is truth, and what isn't?
Right. I mean, there was a story in the New York Times about a month back that where somebody wrote in and they said that the role of investigative journalists has changed and that it should no longer be telling both sides of a story, that what we really need now in this country is for journalists to tell us the truth. And that, I think, is the same fundamental error that President Biden's making, that we don't need people to tell us the truth. We need people to present us the information on both sides so that we can make decisions for ourselves based on what we think the information shows.
And the head of this Disinformation Governance Board is Nina Jankowicz. She actually spread some disinformation of her own prior to the 2020 presidential election when she called the Hunter Biden laptop and emails a, quote, Trump campaign product. And we now know that wasn't true. Your thoughts of having her direct this disinformation effort? What's really going on here?
Yeah, it is really scary to have the government, you know, set up a division run by somebody like that to protect us from disinformation, when what we really need is protection from people like her who are going to give us disinformation and punish us if we don't follow the information that we're given from the government.
And Tony, you've run into censorship, or at least some of your published authors have experienced that. So how prevalent is censorship in publishing? And is most of it a legitimate attempt to stop the spread of disinformation and get at the truth, or is something else going on here?
You know, the censorship that I've seen is in the same vein as what President Biden is doing now. It is a place like the New York Times. So the New York Times is trying not to protect us from real disinformation. What they're trying to protect us from is narratives that they disagree with. So when we published this book, The Real Anthony Fauci by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., we presented it to the New York Times in a whole bunch of different ways. We asked them to review it, and even though it was the best-selling book in America, they refused to review it. Then we asked them to run an advertisement, and they refused to take the advertisement because they disagreed with what the book said and stood for, even though they, you know, clearly hadn't read the book. So, you know, what we have is is organizations like the New York Times or like this new bureau set up by the government purporting to protect us from censorship when in fact they're the censors.
How can we stop the spread of disinformation and at the same time prevent the squashing of free speech?
Yeah, so I think that one of the bright spots in this whole period is the fact that people in their own way are rebelling, that they're unwilling to be told what to do, what to think, and certainly what to read. So The Real Anthony Fauci was the most censored book in recent American history. Wasn't covered in any newspaper. You couldn't advertise for it. It was boycotted by bookstores and by libraries. I mean, you had to really work to find this book, and yet it sold 1 million copies. So I think when you look at things like that, you can see that the American public, isn't willing to accept this. And then even if you look at the Elon Musk story, and I think you're right on target when you comment that this new government bureau is coming right after the Elon Musk story of buying Twitter. And it really smacks of a defensive measure, thinking that they're going to try to counteract the freedom of speech that is going to be possible on Twitter under Elon Musk. But I think there's even more to the story there, and that is that Elon Musk is a very sharp businessman. And I think what he's doing is he's recognizing that the American public is desperate for more free speech, not more curbs on free speech, and that by buying Twitter, he's unlocking value, that people are going to flock back to Twitter. The idea that a president could be kicked off of a means of communication like Twitter is just shocking in a democracy where we need more dialogue and debate, not more, myopic thinking where there's only one truth.
Yeah, I don't think they'd do that to JFK, but it's okay to do it to his nephew, I guess. Tony Lyons, president and publisher of Skyhorse Publishing, thanks for setting us straight today. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
And for more of the news and trending stories, be sure to check out The Global Lane. You can watch it on the CBN News Channel at 8:30 Eastern this evening. You can also download the CBN News app and watch it on demand. Coming up, thousands upon thousands of people coming together today to pray for America on the National Day of Prayer. We're going to hear from the president of the National Day of Prayer Task Force about the importance of prayer when we come back. With our country so deeply divided in so many ways, believers are coming together today on the National Day of Prayer. CBN's John Jessup sat down with the president of the National Day of Prayer Task Force, Kathy Branzell.
What would America look like if it weren't for the legacy of prayer?
That is a scary question. What would America look like without prayer, without being called to prayer? Of course, not just once a year, but to be a praying nation. I can't imagine the darkness that we would be experiencing. And it makes us want to press in even more, right? To push back the darkness. And the unity that National Day of Prayer brings to come together as a nation every single year, millions of hearts and voices coming together and agreeing prayer for our nation. That's better than a legacy, that's a calling.
Talk to us a little bit about what to expect. What will people see and what's involved?
We know of somewhere between 55 and 60,000 gatherings that will take place in communities all across America, in the Virgin Islands, in Puerto Rico, and we have other nations praying for us and with us. But we have over 17,000 volunteer coordinators. We work year-round. A lot of people are like, oh, you're that one day a year ministry. And we're like, oh, no, if you don't pray for America more than one day a year, that would explain a lot, right? But these coordinators are really the grassroots prayer movement across America, working every single day to mobilize unified public prayer for America. The Lord loves when His children work together, when we complete and not compete in the Great Commission. And so we're grateful. Our friends at pray.com, we are working together, producing this broadcast together. We believe that prayer is caught not taught that your prayer life, you learn to pray and your prayer life grows deeper when you pray with others. And so it will be 90 minutes of us joining, again, hearts and voices, not watching, praying with. We want you to be praying with us.
When you look at some of the things that we've experienced as a nation, as the world in the last couple of years with the pandemic, with unrest politically, racially, with uncertainty having to do with the economy, there are many people, not just in the world, but people of faith who also share those emotions. How would you minister to those people? How would you encourage them to not give up hope and also to understand the significance of praying through those difficult times?
That scripture really stood out to me of being strong and courageous and do not be dismayed. I think that might be a definition of how some Christ followers are feeling right now. For another day, I went through 14 years with a brain tumor. And right after I was healed in 2008, a year later, our son was diagnosed with a very rare blood cancer. If not God, who? Where are you going to turn? Where does our hope come from? Our hope comes from the Lord. So yes, we want to speak to smart doctors and researchers and everybody else involved, but you know, who I talked to most was our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Tonight at 8 Eastern, CBN News will carry the live stream of the National Day of Prayer 2022 broadcast. Be sure to tune in to watch. You can find out more at cbnnews.com. Time now for your Thursday Thankful. I pray that you will join me today in this prayer of gratitude. Father, thank you for forgiveness. It's a blessing to know it keeps me close to your love. I walk in confidence. You love me. With this prayer, I hope you make today 24 hours filled with gratitude for the grace of God. We all need it. That is a wrap for this edition of CBN News Watch. You can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online at cbnnews.com. We would love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope you'll join us again right here next time. Have a great day, everybody.